Unless you've been living under a rock, you will have heard about the various coronavirus vaccines and how we are frantically trying to vaccinate as many people as possible in order to halt the pandemic. You've also probably seen or heard of someone who is sceptical of the vaccine. I think some of this is just due to not quite knowing exactly how they work, so I think it's my duty as a science teacher to give it a very bad go. So we can understand how the vaccines work, we need to know how our body's own immune system works. We, as humans, have something called an adaptive immune system. This means that we adapt to bugs and germs that we have become ill from in the past, and this means that we don't become ill from them again. You've probably been aware that if you get chickenpox as a child, you don't get it again. Well, the same is true for pretty much everything our body encounters. The whole system is really complex, so I'm not going to go into massive detail, but we can boil it down to basic parts. Pathogens, which are microscopic, tiny organisms that can make you ill, are covered with markers called antigens. Just like how we all look different to one another, every type of pathogen has a different and unique antigen marker. The antigen on the surface of chickenpox is different, for example, to the antigen for a common cold, which is different to salmonella. When you become infected with these disease-causing pathogens and they start to make you ill, your body seeks a way to fight them. Specialised white blood cells called B cells will grab onto these unique antigens and devise a counterattack. So they work on the fact that antigens are specific to that pathogen, and they develop a really specific way to bind onto them and get them taken care of. These kind of counter-attacking chemicals are called antibodies, and they are amazing, and they're like little heat-seeking missiles that target those germs. When you've got one that works, your body floods your system with it and deals with it. But that process to find those specific antibodies takes time. And in that meantime, you can get pretty ill, or with coronavirus, deadly ill. So this information on how to actually make that antibody is really useful, so your body doesn't want to waste it. So some of those B cells will actually become memory cells, and these remember how to make those antibodies. So if you get infected with it again, you can deal with it. So to get immune, your body needs to encounter an antigen and have time to make an antibody. You do this and you're immune, broadly, and you don't get it again. So in the past, the way your body got that first sweet taste of antigen was by actually getting ill from the virus or the bacteria. That's clearly not the best solution because it involves you getting the virus or the bacteria. So if we can introduce that artificially ahead of time, we can save ourselves getting ill, and that's what a vaccine is. Vaccines have been around for centuries. The first vaccine was developed for smallpox, and involved taking pus from people who were infected with cowpox, which is a similar disease, and actually our body sees the same antigen for it. And they'd take that pus and they'd inject it into people. Those people then get sick with cowpox, which isn't very nice, but they were immune to smallpox, which is really not nice. Clearly, we've come quite a way from injecting manky pus juice into people, but it's really effective. If we can get those antigens into people, then they don't get sick. Vaccines typically use an inactivated form of virus, which is where they can't make you sick, but they've still got the antigen there, so your body can practice on it. Using this idea, we've developed many, many vaccines. It is overwhelmingly one of the most successful healthcare initiatives ever. Before vaccines, millions of people would die of smallpox every year. Polio would paralyse and kill children, and this is within living memory. Whooping cough, measles, mumps, rubella, tuberculosis. You just don't encounter these every day nowadays. It's just quite frankly a luxury that we can even doubt that vaccines work, because they've done such a good job of eliminating diseases that we feel that they're not there. Vaccines have prevented many diseases, and just because we don't see them nowadays does not mean that the vaccines didn't work. It's proof that they did. Moaning about vaccines is like complaining about a clean street and saying, well, there's no rubbish here, so clearly we don't need to hire anyone to collect it. Well, no. The reason the street is clean in the first place is because you've hired people to take away the rubbish. So, how can we make a coronavirus vaccine? Remember, we get that antigen into us without possibility of getting ill, then our body can practice before the real deal. So we could go for the inactivated virus approach, what I mentioned. Indeed, some of them have, but they take a little bit of time to get developed, and we haven't really got that luxury at the moment. The currently approved vaccines work in different ways, but they still work on getting the antigen into us. Coronavirus's antigen is the so-called spike protein, which you've probably heard a lot about. This is the spiky bit on the outside, which makes the virus look spiky. The Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine and the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine both get your body to get these spikes. The Pfizer vaccine uses something called mRNA. The M here stands for messenger. mRNA is like a code which tells parts of your cells, called ribosomes, how to make a protein. Your body uses them constantly. If you need to make a particular protein, which your body does need to do, your cells need to do all the time, your cells make the specific mRNA code to tell the ribosomes in your cell to make the protein. The Pfizer vaccine injects the mRNA for the spike protein. So your cells read this code and they make coronavirus spike protein. There's no full coronavirus there to make you sick. It just makes the spikes. And this is the antigen. Therefore, the body can get the practice it needs and remember how to fight COVID, and off you go. However, this mRNA is quite unstable and it doesn't last that long. That's why you might have heard that it has to be kept at -70. The Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine works slightly differently. We still want to get the mRNA in to make this spike protein antigen. But instead of just putting in the mRNA, they've put it inside another harmless virus. Now this sounds a bit scary, but it is a harmless virus. It's a virus that just gives like chimps a sniffle. This virus doesn't make people sick. It just does its really good viral task of injecting the mRNA into one of your cells. So it comes across a human cell, injects the mRNA into it, and then your cells make loads of coronavirus spike protein. There's no coronavirus there to make you ill. You've just got the spike protein. You've got the antigen now to practice. Boom, antibodies made, immunity achieved. And by placing it inside that other virus, it means that the mRNA is now more stable, and that's why the Oxford vaccine is fine to be stored at normal fridge temperature, which is so much better for distributing it across the world. So, that's how vaccines work. Pfizer with its mRNA and Oxford using a safe virus to assist it. Take the vaccine. It's not microchips from Bill Gates. It's the only way that we get to return to normal.